Life can change in an instant.
What do you mean she's gone? No, she's not. I just talked to her last night. What do you mean she's gone?
It's especially heartbreaking when something could be done.
I can't stress enough, this is an immediate danger to the public.
Hundreds of thousands of people travel the Harbor Bridge every year. All the while, a major flaw poses deadly consequences.
But it's pretty evident that there is a problem down there at the south end of the Harbor Bridge where people are turning up the wrong way on exits.
On a special edition of KRIS 6 News at 10.
We will get the car stopped one way or the other.
What law enforcement is doing to try to save lives. And the lasting scars left behind for families.
I can't believe it's been that long already. Feels like yesterday. The pain feels like yesterday.
And those at fault behind the wheel.
My heart just hurt. I was numb that had I actually took somebody's life.
Facing danger, how many more have to die? Good evening, I'm Pat Simon. The Harbor Bridge opened in 1959. Thousands of people cross that bridge every day. It serves as a gateway into Corpus Christi from San Patricio County. The Harbor Bridge is often in the news because of the number of deadly head-on crashes over the last few years. In fact, at least 5 people died on that bridge in 7 years in crashes involving drivers taking exit ramps and going the wrong way. Immediately after the most recent crash in November, we began our investigation, looking into why nothing has been done to protect those who use the Harbor Bridge. KRIS 6 Investigates reporter Brian Hoffman joins me now. Brian and I, along with our team of KRIS 6 producers, have been searching for answers. And what we found will make you really think the next time you travel on that bridge. Brian, as we begin, you have some real startling numbers.
Yeah, first off, I want to start off with, Pat, 60,000 people travel that bridge each and every day. And these numbers of fatalities, it's not just numbers. They're actually people tragically lost in the blink of an eye to a wrong-way driver. Now, we began our investigation by asking the Texas Department of Transportation how many people had died in crashes caused by wrong-way drivers on the Harbor Bridge between 2012 and November of 2022. TxDOT responding with a total of just 1 fatal crash. That's the most recent one. Although crash reports from the Department of Public Safety reveal additional fatalities, and interviews with the Portland Police Department even more. 5 people have died on that southbound stretch of the Harbor Bridge in the last 7 years. In September 2015, Lionel Guerra drove onto the bridge and hit Julie Gathriel's Nissan Pathfinder head-on, killing the Taft woman. In February of 2020, 45-year-old Ricardo Zuniga III died after causing a head-on crash that killed 38-year-old Amy Hinojosa of Gregory. Amy left behind 3 young children. And just last year, police say Roxanne Palacios was intoxicated when she drove onto the Harbor Bridge in the wrong direction and hit a Mazda 3, killing 27-year-old Matthew Banda and 37-year-old Betsy Mandujano. Both were from Sinton. Banda was a Navy veteran and had just started dating Mandujano, who was a dispatcher for San Patricio County Sheriff's Office.
The reality is that she is missed, and especially when you have events still ongoing. Christmas, we dedicated the entire float for her, and it was remarkable.
Those lives shattered forever, and it's their stories that sparked this in-depth special. In fact, Pat, you recently took a trip to the Northeast to talk to a family who lost a loved one to a wrong-way driver on this very bridge, right?
That's right, Brian. The sister of a crash victim invited me all the way to Pennsylvania to hear her story. She wants you to understand the pain that she and her family still suffer and what she believes should be done to avoid other tragedies on the Harbor Bridge. It's been 7 years, but Susan Hardinger still finds it difficult to come to terms.
She had so much good yet to do.
she will never see her sister Julie again. So she often takes this long walk up this hill in Reading, Pennsylvania, just to get as close as she can to her sister.
I swear she is.
Buried right next to her other family members.
I missed her every minute of every day. I can't believe it's been that long already. Feels like yesterday. The pain feels like yesterday.
To Susan, Julie was the kindest, most compassionate person. Perfect attributes to own an animal rescue in Taft, Texas, hundreds of miles away.
Yeah, she had the biggest heart of anybody I knew. So much unconditional love for everybody. It didn't matter what was going on in their life. She was always there to always want to help.
For years, the two sisters stayed in touch long distance and talked just about every night about everything.
She would fill me in on what was going on in, their life out in Texas.
That life included Julie's husband and soulmate, Ian.
She was his queen.
And her cherished daily drives to pick Ian up from work. Which brings us to two crystal clear dates in Susan's mind. September 21st, 2015, the last time she heard Julie's voice on the phone.
I'll never forget that phone call.
And the next day, September 22nd. Susan went to bed that night. The next phone call was not from Julie, but about her.
And I looked in the caller ID, said it was our father.
His words were beyond belief.
All he said was, Julie's gone. I said, what do you mean she's gone? No, she's not. I just talked to her last night. What do you mean she's gone? And it's just total shock. Total shock.
The official police report shows that on the night of September 22nd, 2015, Lionel Guerra was intoxicated when he drove his black pickup truck the wrong way, heading northbound up on the southbound exit ramp of the Harbor Bridge. Moments later, he crashed head-on into a black SUV driven by Julie Gatherall. Susan's sister didn't survive.
Senseless.
At the time of the crash, Ian Gatherall was waiting for his ride home from Julie right here in downtown Corpus Christi. That ride, of course, never came. For Ian, the intense grief of life without Julie was too overwhelming.
He just was extremely lost without her being there.
Ian died on November 11, 2016, just over a year after Julie. And though doctors say he died of congestive heart failure, Susan knew it was something worse.
I still think the biggest part of his death was broken heart. I mean, she was his love, she was his heart.
Ian didn't live long enough to see justice for his beloved Julie. Just 2 months after his death on January 12, 2017, 47-year-old Lionel Guerra pleaded guilty to intoxication manslaughter. Hello, Mr. Guerra. Hello. Have a seat. Now serving his 5th year of a 20-year prison sentence at the Wallace Pack Unit in Navasota, Texas.
I've lost everything, Pat.
Lionel Guerra agreed to speak with me about that life-changing night in 2015.
I don't even remember talking to anybody. The only thing I remember is waking up in the hospital.
He says he was drinking all day to numb the pain of his father's recent death, and that he regrets his decision to drive that September night, an action that killed Julie Gatherall.
My heart just hurt. I was numb that had I actually took somebody's life because of my stupidity in putting myself on that road.
Years after he originally asked Julie's family to forgive him, he's asking again.
I'm very, very so sorry for their loved one that I know they love very much to take from this earth.
And while Julie's sister Susan is not yet ready,
I try to be a good Christian woman, and I believe in forgiveness, but I'm just not there yet.
They both can agree on one thing, that no driver, impaired or sober, should have such easy access to a wrong-way exit on the Harbor Bridge.
Even if I was probably in the right set of mind, it could have happened.
And that these exits should be shut down.
Ideally, I'd love to see the ramps closed so people can't do that anymore.
And now 7 years since the shock of her sudden loss of Julie.
It's definitely not something I expected to get a phone call about.
Susan still wonders, where's the sense of urgency to finally act to prevent the loss of other innocent lives?
I just can't fathom, like, what is it going to take until somebody starts saying how many people have to die on this bridge before something's done with these ramps to make them safer, to prevent other families from going through this kind of phone call.
One quick note, Lionel Guerra is now up for parole in just over 3 years. I want to show you this map right here. It gives you an idea of the two specific exit ramps we're talking about, where drivers went the wrong way that led to those fatal crashes on the Harbor Bridge. One is over here on North Tonkoa Street at Padre. There you see the lines going up to the Harbor Bridge. It's right next to the Concrete Street Amphitheater. Now the other exit ramp is right there at Power Street, and there's the wrong way up the Harbor Bridge. Now these ramps have confused many, but one solution appears to be on the way, Brian.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Pat. We are talking about some wrong-way lighting systems, which we'll take a closer look at in a minute. But even when that lighting system is finally installed, it's unknown exactly how effective it will be. Until then, Portland PD has to take drastic measures to stop these intoxicated wrong-way drivers, occasionally having to ram their squad cars into these drivers in order to save lives. We do want to warn you, these images may be disturbing to some viewers.
Whoa, 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 whoa! 1.2, I just hit my unit.
Encountering a wrong-way driver can be a terrifying experience, especially when you're driving between Portland and Corpus Christi. Surprisingly, it's a fairly common occurrence with deadly consequences.
I'm sure there's more than what we know about. There's been plenty of wrong-way drivers that we get calls about. We rush down to the causeway and they never show up because they exited somewhere on North Beach.
A wrong-way driver, which almost all the time is an intoxicated driver, is an immediate threat, and we're going to take immediate action to take that vehicle off the roadway.
That immediate action can range from placing officers' cars in direct line of traffic to laying down spike strips. Or even using the squad cars as battering rams, like the video here.
It's the same risk that every citizen's having that has lost their life. We're looking at losing an officer every time this happens. If it's not an officer, it's very, very well going to be a citizen.
Whatever it takes, because I'm not going to have a drunk driver or a wrong-way driver hit a carload of innocent civilians and kill them like what's occurred on the Harbor Bridge, on the causeway. We're going to do everything we can to not allow that to occur in Portland.
Measures like these that the Portland PD incorporates are a polar opposite and possibly a direct result of Corpus Christi Police Department's no-chase policy, where they will not chase an intoxicated driver, nor will they pursue a wrong-way driver.
Other agencies don't take that quite of aggressive attitude. I've heard other departments say they're going to parallel them and try to get their attention.
Chief Corey tells me that the catalyst for most of these wrong-way drunk drivers are these. It's a multiple different off-ramps in tight proximity in Corpus Christi, right off the Harbor Bridge from Portland all the way here to Corpus Christi. It's already pretty dark out here, as you can see with our stage lighting off. What makes things worse, though, this street lamp over the off-ramp isn't even on. Unfortunately, these off-ramps are outside the jurisdiction of Portland PD, meaning they haven't even made any request to TxDOT to make any changes. One of the more obvious ones is getting rid of these double yellow lines indicating a 2-lane street right off of Tonkawa to Power. You could drive easily without even knowing it onto the freeway the wrong way.
I would hope that the city of Corpus Police Department would be dealing with TxDOT to get those things corrected.
144, you just went past me.
And generally, the policies and procedures for police departments using squad cars to disable other vehicles, well, that's usually discouraged. But the need to save lives has forced Portland PD to change tactics.
So that's our unit that was hit up here.
The chief supports us, our city management supports us, the city council supports us, and most importantly, the citizens in Portland support us, and they expect us to go out and prevent these things from happening.
We would like to see an engineering solution to the wrong-way drivers. We would like to see TxDOT take action, appropriate action that'll prevent these wrong-way drivers.
Now, the chief tells me that until changes are made, Portland PD will continue to use any and all tactics to stop wrong-way drivers, protect its citizens, and hopefully make it in time to prevent tragedy. But as Lieutenant Owen recalls, they are sometimes too late.
Went up to the car, it had already caught fire, and unfortunately it's one of those times where it kind of messes with you after the fact. In the moment, you're there to do a job, but we watched him burn. I mean, there was nothing we could do. Can't prevent them all, but we can prevent a lot of what's occurred over the last few years.
It's important to note that the Portland Police Department says that there are far more wrong-way drivers than we even know about, as the ones that they hear about but can't find don't actually make it into those statistics. What they do find, though, equates to nearly 1 wrong-way driver every month, usually at night.
Incredible. Thanks, Brian. Well, still ahead. Is there a way to avoid a wrong-way driver? Believe it or not, law enforcement says there are actually tips you can follow. Some life-saving advice next as this special edition of KRIS 6 News at 10 continues.
You're watching a special edition of KRIS 6 News.
Welcome back to Facing Danger. To further prevent tragedy on the Harbor Bridge, we know that changes need to be made.
Until that happens, though, what can we do to limit the risk of death or injury over the Harbor Bridge? Well, other than trying to limit driving over the bridge to daytime hours only, other tips include limiting your speed, especially over the blind humps, to boost your reaction time. What lane you choose to drive in, that's also important.
Late at night, if you stay in the middle lane or even the outside lane of the highway, if there is a wrong-way driver, you have less of a chance of getting hit head-on because these people are thinking they're driving in the slow lane, right? But in reality, it's going to be your inside, or people call it your fast lane.
If you happen to see a dangerous or wrong-way driver, officials say you should pull over immediately and call up 911, as unless an officer actually sees a wrong-way driver on the road, they only know about them due to tips from you, the public.
5 people dead in 7 years. So what has TxDOT done? When we reported on the most recent fatal crash in November, TxDOT told us they were installing a wrong-way driver detection system on the Harbor Bridge. It's right near the off-ramp to Concrete Street Amphitheater that we told you about a moment ago. The system will have a flashing red light to alert the wrong-way driver that they're traveling in the wrong direction. It'll also take a photo of the driver and send it to police to alert them of the situation. In November, TxDOT told us it was waiting for a part to come in to complete the system. They're hoping to have it fully operational by May, they told us. But when we asked TxDOT for an update on that system at the beginning of this month, we were met with some resistance. Their communications specialist, Ricky Daly, actually asked what prompted this story and who else we are interviewing and contacting for the story. He added that he would check and see what he could find out. He also asked for our deadline. Later that day, he asked what the story was about and whether the wrong-way system was part of a larger story or a standalone update. In fact, we sent a list of questions Friday with a deadline of today, Wednesday at noon. This afternoon, Daly with TxDOT did contact us after our deadline, though, and he said that he would be responding, just not likely today. And then there's this. Last night we noticed crews added lights to the wrong way sign at one of the exit ramps to the Harbor Bridge. In the meantime, the new system may be reassuring news for some, but not everyone thinks this new lighting system is going to work.
I don't see how that's going to have any effect when you got a drunk driver that's a blood alcohol concentration of 0.18, who's an immediate threat, and you have a patrol car running alongside him with their lights on. Is going to have zero impact on getting this vehicle stopped. That's just not going to work.
It bothers me when there's ways to fix this kind of problems, and I hear what TxDOT wants to do to fix the problem, and that's not a fix.
He says it's not a fix, but it's TxDOT's plan for now, a plan many have been pushing for quite some time.
That's right, one man knows just how tough it can be to get action from a state agency.
So you have to get both of them involved and both of them to agree, which is hard being large bureaucracies.
Next, the uphill battle he faced to get a stop sign put in, a sign he knows has saved lives.
You're watching a special edition of KRIS 6 News.
Welcome back. Making changes to traffic patterns can be a nightmare.
Yeah, that's especially true when dealing with several different agencies, right? As David Loeb tells us, cutting through the red tape, trying to get signage in place to prevent against numerous crashes near one of the off-ramps from the Harbor Bridge, that was a multi-year challenge.
TxDOT, it's their exit ramp, but then it turns into a city road and city intersection. And apparently when any of those changes happen, in that case, you have to get both of them involved and both of them to agree, which is hard being large bureaucracies.
Yeah, and Loeb said that from his office across the street, he used to hear multiple crashes a year. And while none of them were fatal, several of them resulted in victims going to the hospital. And almost all of them, he says, could have been avoided with the proper signage that is now in place. Although it took him consistently calling city officials, TxDOT, and even us here at KRIS 6 after each and every accident to finally get proper signage installed.
The engineers can't predict everything that everyone will do, but when the same thing keeps happening over and over again, you kind of feel a need to try to advocate and get it solved. And it was pretty obvious, it wasn't, there were different types of accidents. It was the same accident over and over and over again for years, and it wasn't changing.
You can imagine the frustration.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
Well, it's the positive change within our community that has been the driving force and the focus and the preservation of life. Those are all reasons for us doing this exact report, right, Pat?
But we're not stopping here, Brian. In fact, we will show tonight's report to state and local officials and then ask the important question, what happens now? So be sure to stay with us for that report in the future. In the meantime, you can see some of the reports we've already gathered on this topic over the last 3 months. It's on our website. We've created a special section on the website called Facing Danger. As we wrap up our special report, Facing Danger, we want to pay tribute to the lives lost on the Harbor Bridge to wrong-way drivers. May their lives spark a change that could save others. Good night.